I don't know. I assume that much. Yeah. How's that make you feel warm and fuzzy?
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone have any communication on these cases they want to disclose outside of our emails and meetings? Nope. Okay, we're good. From the agenda, we're going to switch it up a little bit and do the subdivision of land first. Is anyone here to represent that?
The lot split.
Yeah. Can you come up here and tell us what you're doing?
I just want to split the property off. Someday nobody's getting no younger here. And one of these days I'm gonna sell that property. And I just don't want somebody, I had a guy from Kansas City make me a hell of an offer here 8 months ago on it, but I can't sell it because I want to divide it off before I sell it because I don't know what he'll do with it.
Okay.
That's why I'm dividing 1.87 acres off with them 4 buildings there. There's still room to build 5 more buildings in there if he wants them, but he don't need all 9 acres.
And you're going to put a new driveway in to the.
And there's already a driveway off the state highway right across from the outpost because till I put the cable up, people used to use it at night at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Ben, are you prepared to just tell us that he has together?
Yeah, everything is good. I have everything in my office. Your lot split, the survey, the payment, the request, everything is good.
It's all done.
It's all done. I think we were just waiting for this, right?
Yeah.
As far as I know, we were just waiting for this.
Okay.
Yes. It's zoned as commercial, and are you gonna rezone it later?
No, it's light commercial is what it is.
Okay.
I can't put a power plant or a slaughterhouse or a strip bar or anything like that in. Light industrial is what it's zoned for. Also,
Okay.
Junior Moody, Marta Reed, and Frank Gable zoned it for build storage units on the whole 9 acres.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have record of it being rezoned? Because on
It
the
was zoned in 93, March.
it still shows countryside. Is the reason I'm asking.
It was zoned in 93 in March. Like I said, Marty Reed, Frank Gable, and Junior Mooney did it.
Okay.
Everything.
So
Sorry.
that's your official staff report on the CUP? I know you're, I know
I
you're
would
just
have
coming-
one.
I know you're just coming into this. I just want to be sure that we're covered and doing this the right way. I want to come back and do it again.
No, I've looked at it. From what I can tell, everything is good. Jesse's looked at it. He says we're good. So I don't know who else to give it to have them look at it, to basically.
So you're recommending that we pass this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I forgot to tell you.
Yeah.
At the end, just say
Okay.
you
Yes.
recommend or you don't recommend.
I recommend.
I don't want to change the zoning on any of it. I just want to split it. It's all I want to do. So if I do decide to do something in a year or 5 years or whenever I do it, I want it to be done.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the lot split as described. Any seconds? Second. Okay. Any further discussion?
Yes. I would like to have Ben confirm the zoning change simply because the Linn County online map still shows that zone countryside, and I don't want to make this approval presuming that it's been already zoned light industrial. If that record just got lost or something, then the online map needs to be updated. If it is truly if it's not, we'll just come back and rezone it, but the map doesn't match what his.
So what's the map say?
I'm looking at the Linn County GIS, adopted zoning from the link on the website at Kansas 152 Robertson Road, and that shows that entire property zoned countryside.
So if it is zoned countryside, we can't do a lot split, is that what you're saying?
No, you do the lot split.
We just need to rezone.
The parcel, the new parcel with the mini storage cannot be zoned countryside.
Got it.
So we just need to double check that and make sure, and somebody needs to sync up their records and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
So,
I'll amend my motion to say contingent on the zoning being correct, and if not, we'll fix that.
and I don't doubt you,
Yeah,
I'm looking at the map online.
they told me all I had to do was come in each time and tell them I want a building permit in the county, and I could build as many buildings as I wanted on the whole property, anywhere I wanted. So it was zoned light commercial, they said.
Yeah, sometimes these things just don't get synced up, and so we're just making sure everything's correct.
I can believe that.
Well, yeah. And then you'll re-second, okay. No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes. When-
That you voted on the amendment, so now you need to vote on the original motion.
I amended my motion.
Right.
To, okay,
So now that we've amended it,
okay.
and so now we're back to the original motion and with the amendment to approve that.
Okay. All in favor of the full motion, say aye, please.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Ben, can you print, after the meeting, can you print off those signature pages?
Yes.
Okay, I need to sign that. Thank you for coming. Next. We have the Mulberry Quarry presentation. And whoever represents that, can you please come up?
Good evening. My name is Jake Wade. I live at 21722 Humphrey Road, and I own the property at 22779 East 2400 Road. As you already know, is the site where Mulberry Limestone is looking to obtain the conditional use permit, the quarry. I'm a fifth generation Lacine resident. I grew up here, worked here, and spent over 25 years in our family quarry business. 14 of those years, I was full-time. We sold away quarries back in 2017, so I ended up starting a new venture. But as it turns out, you can take the guy out of the quarry, but you can't quite take the quarry out of the guy. Since that time, I've watched material prices in our area go up and the competition go down. And when one player controls the market, that's usually what happens. It's not great for local contractors, it's not great for the county, and it's definitely not great for the taxpayers. That's why I've teamed up with Mulberry Limestone. We're working together to bring a new operation to this area, one that can provide the kind of local, reliable, and reasonably priced material that Linn County deserves. Our goal is to do this the right way, safe way, compliant, and community-minded. Tonight's presentation will give you a straightforward look at what we're proposing, how it'll work, and how it benefits the area, and what steps are in place to make sure it's done responsibly. With that, I'd like to introduce the key people in this effort. Dennis Meyer, he's with Triad Engineering. He's environmental services. Yeah. He's been in business since what, 1990? 85. Oh, 85. 86. Go ahead, Dean.
Dean Manuel with Austin Powder Company. I've been with Austin for right at 20 years now.
Matt Lawson with Mulberry Limestone. I'm the owner. Been in business since '91.
I'd like to say a little bit about Matt. Matt started from the ground up, literally. And over the last 3 decades has grown Mulberry Limestone Incorporated into a respected supplier, operating 9 locations. What sets Matt apart isn't just the scale, it's his approach. He's never lost sight of his small town values, honesty, hard work, and doing right by the communities he serves. Alongside him every step of the way has been his wife, Lisa, who has worked just as tirelessly, often behind the scenes, to build and manage the business. Today, Mulberry Limestone continues to provide dependable, competitively priced materials to counties, cities, and individuals alike. Matt understands the real-world impact of infrastructure decisions on rural budgets and everyday taxpayers. His goal has always been to deliver not just rock, but reliability and respect for the people who rely on it. That said, we'll go to, who's in charge of the slide? Taking pictures.
What do you,
Next slide, there should be a map.
right here or the next one?
Yeah. Well, no, it's, go back down. There you go. Right.
Okay.
So, I guess you all had time to kind of look over the presentation somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's fine. I want to explain the site a little bit. And if you don't mind, if I step up here, I really need a laser pen. So I respect all my neighbors. I've known these people for basically my whole life. And I really prefer to continue to have a good relationship with them. I've moved the setbacks from, the county requires 100 foot. Last go around, I moved it to 200, and this time I moved to 460 feet, which is very generous, I think. So with that being said on this end, I've also put 450 or 460 foot setback from the landowner here. And we moved a 250 foot setback from the road, which there's other quarries in the area that are closer to that, to major highways. There's one, a prime example is one over on 7 Highway. It's closer, they're right by 7 Highway. And there's another one down south, 4th Stop, that's, I think, right at the same. So, you know, that's not unusual. Along highways is a good place for quarries to be because it's easy to get the aggregate or whatever is being hauled from the quarry right onto the primary road. You don't have to, you know, like if you go east of the power plant, you got to run down gravel, go over train tracks, go across the dam. So, you know, it's not really a great place. It's a great place for the power plant when they're hauling burn rock to the power plant, but not so great for, you know, the average person. The total site that we have mapped out in red is 134 acres. All right,
No, you're good. Following you.
So we have that. We don't plan on using this. This is a wildlife corridor here. We plan to enhance it. We've been working on it. I'd like to use a local contractor to put a lake in here. And these landowners over here, there's literally no way, unless maybe somebody climbed on top of their barn and was looking over the tree road to actually see the quarry, because there's so much vegetation between their house and where we're looking at putting the pit. So the area that we're proposing to mine is 48 acres. It says it, you have it on your map there. And it'll be done in phases. There's 14 acres here, 17 acres here, 17 there, and it has the dates on there. You can see that. So the office and stockpile area would be up here. Be a nice entrance here. I chose that spot. Originally, I wanted to put it over here, but at that time, I didn't own that house, and I'd met with the landowner, and he said, "Yeah, I prefer you not put it there. You know, you can move it away." So I respected that, and that's what I did. We're planning to put a KDOT approved concrete entrance and egress to the county road there, so we're not tearing up the road. And if we do tear up the road, we'll take care of, you know, really, it'll be in writing 100 foot one way, 100 foot the other way, but we're the type of people that fix the road, that we're responsible for it. So, let's see here. This area is also has to least disturbance to any of the neighbors. You know, say if, Mr. Walker was out, you know, in the middle of the day, and, you know, stuff was going on. He couldn't really observe anything through there because once again, there's so much vegetation and we're gonna have a berm. It looks like a railroad track on here, but it's actually a berm. So that'll be in place for noise and all that.
How high's the berm?
We're gonna make it, it's a minimum of 10 feet, but it'll change depending on the topography of the land. So, you know, there's spots where the highway becomes a little higher than the ground. So in those places, I anticipate it being, you know, 18, 20 foot. So we're gonna do our part to make sure that, you know, this is hidden. Although I like rock, I like, you know, going to Colorado, seeing rock. I think rock's awesome. But anyways, so we're going to try to keep everything out of the public eye. The berms along the highway, those would be seeded at 200 pounds per acre. You know, we're not going to have some janky berms like the neighbors have. I don't know if I really need to bring that up, but it's true. When we first made the berms, Topher can attest to this. Over there, we did a very nice job of doing. We put a lot of grass seed on there, and there was a good stand of grass, and then they just came in and decimated it basically. So anyways, that's not our intentions. Our intentions is to make this look nice. So there's this area here. If we have to move anything for whether it's weather, any sort of reason that we can't put it right here immediately, this will be an area where we, a staging site, if you will, for any, you know, non-permanent dirt pile or whatever. And that will also, you know, have a buffering effect for the noise and so on and so forth. And one thing I want to touch base on a little bit on the berms, it's kind of a dual purpose thing. You know, whenever I bought this house, the landowner told me, you know, first thing I noticed is, golly, you know, the highway is, you know, it's offensive. I mean, it's annoying. You know, trucks at there's a bridge up there. And he goes, oh, you'll get used to it. Okay, well, I guess I'll get used to it, you know. But anyway, so my point being is this is actually going to help the neighborhood out by blocking some of the noise. I know in the summertime, it's not as much because there's so much vegetation that has to go through to get to these folks over here. But in the wintertime, when the leaves come off and foliage is off, then it's, you know, it's more apparent. And I know that because I've been over there in the house here. You know, I've been in this area my whole life. Next we got the wildlife corridor here. I talked about that a little bit, but I want to go a little bit more in depth on that. We're going to, there's already wildflowers out there. Black-eyed Susans are out there. You know, we want to enhance that. We're in the process of, you know, spraying a lot of the obnoxious weeds out there. So that's something we're in the process of doing, and we want to make that beautiful. You know, these places over here are nice. You know, I envy Ryan's native stand of grass. I like to have something similar to that. Anyhow, yeah, that's pretty well taken care of. And then, so I have reclamation and you got up there and potential future use. You know, water's great. Everybody likes to be around water. I mean, look at all the development around Linn Valley Lakes. Look at Lake Ozark, right? So there's several future uses here. One that really caught my attention is there's a guy, a local guy who lives in Ottawa, owns a Loma Vista nursery in Ottawa. That was once a quarry, and he uses the water from his pit to water all his plants. So he's not using rural water. He's not having to haul stuff in, you know, and not being efficient and all. I thought that was pretty neat. There's also up in Olathe, there's a silo restaurant and a golf course. And actually, it's the next one. Sorry. But yeah, so it's for that. Wedding venues, there's one in Blackwater, Missouri. Nature reserves, some just out here in Pittsburgh. A future housing development, you know. I'm not real big on, you know, putting up a bunch of fancy houses or anything. I kind of like, you know, open places, but it could be. And another thing I think would be good is a water search and rescue training location for our surrounding law enforcement. You know, they don't have to go out to, you know, wherever, some lake that's murky and they can't see very good and all that stuff. It's, you know, it's in a good location for that. So I guess that kind of, let me make sure I haven't missed anything here. If anybody have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, chime in, you know, not a big deal. Does anybody have any questions so far? No? Okay. Next is site suitability. You know, next slide. Okay, so it has an ideal limestone formation. You know, if somebody just didn't willy-nilly go out here and decide that we're gonna put a rock quarry here. It's
Oops, sorry. I'm trying to find the suit. There it goes.
So the top 6 feet of this ledge is really laminated, which there's a lot of good things about that. One is that you don't have to load your holes as high to achieve what you're trying to achieve, to get your rock to where it can, you know, be processed through your crushing plant. The cheapest way to crush rock is with, or I call it chemical crushing, but explosives. So, you know, that's a big perk. There's almost no clay seams in this rock ledge, right in this geographic area. Another thing I want to say, you know, I've crushed rock from west of Iola, Bronson, Kansas. I don't know if there's anybody's heard of Bronson, Kansas, but there clear over to Garnett, you know, north in Drexel. And this ledge, and I'm not a geologist, but this ledge is unique, and it's easy to work with. You know, there's the absorption rate on the rock is really low, so that's good if you're mixing it with making asphalt. It doesn't absorb as much oil, and it's cheaper for the company who's, you know, doing the paving job. So that's another good thing about the ledge there. Also on the site, it's not on the screen.
This
Well, no, because you guys have all this stuff. You should have it on your tablet. It's got, and I know that I've said a little bit about it in the past. It's got Class 1 concrete rock. So the first 12 feet of the rock is good rock, but it doesn't make the Class 1 concrete rock. And Class 1 concrete rock is good for any state and federal highway projects, and especially when they're built bridges. It's how they test that, or what qualifies it as Class 1 concrete rock, is it goes through a rigorous 660 test. So that 660 freeze and thaw. So they freeze it and thaw it 660 times. And so what happens when they make concrete is the concrete's porous. Everybody knows it, you know, can soak up water. So when it does that, it gets in touch with, it touches the limestone or whatever aggregates in it, right? And they call it decracking. So whenever it touches, the moisture gets to the rock, it can, if there's any imperfections in the rock, or if, you know, there's deleterious material, which is like clay or shale, you know, that stuff will crack, and it can have negative effects on the concrete and premature failure. So that's not a good thing, you know, especially with, you know, how high everything's getting nowadays. When you build a road, you want the darn thing to last, right? So, it's already got an established road access for the current quarry. I mean, the roads support the traffic that's there, and I don't anticipate there being really any more traffic. I mean, who's going to drive past a business that's selling something for half price? And it's not that we're out of line on our pricing, it's that they're out of line on their pricing, because we're right in line with the guy down here that's selling rock. So I mean, my opinion, I think we're doing Zach a favor by not putting trucks past his house. But anyways, so there's nothing has to be really done to that area. You don't have to reinforce the bridges, you know, do the roads need shoulders? Sure. But everything can be better, you know, and you don't get better stuff by just saying, no, I don't want it. you say you get stuff done by working together and saying, hey, we got a guy that's coming in here to supply aggregates at a good cost. You know, let's see if we can get him to give us a better deal on whatever it's going to take to make the road accommodate the trucks that are here, you know? So keep that in mind. The neighborhood, and I mean, I don't know what the technical definition of a neighborhood is, how, you know, the width and length and all that stuff, but it already supports or has more intensive land use. You know, there's probably nobody here that really knows that the largest landfill, MSW landfill, municipal solid waste, is right across the lake. The Kansas City Power Line. It's the largest permitted landfill in the state of Kansas. So, you know, and all the stuff that goes on over there, which I'm fine. I mean, great. You know, we have that in our backyard. It's awesome. Brings in tax revenue, you know, coal, go, go, go. And kind of another thing I want to hit on, it's really obvious, is there's already a port there. So, you know, it's hard for me to get past it. This is going to be another burden. Lastly, it fits the comprehensive plan by diversifying the local economy. It supports economic growth. It providing productive use to otherwise unproductive land. You know, that piece of ground, there's a reason it's not a crop field, because, you know, it was at one time, but they found it and they're not row cropping anymore. And you can put cattle on it, but that's not what I want to do. It serves a much better purpose being rock quarry. It provides options for future land use, promotes job creation, and it supports existing businesses and brings in additional tax revenue. We got the next focus of the CUP, which that's, so you guys don't need to worry about any of this stuff. That's not, I mean, there's guys that dedicate their lives and that's their profession. You know, we have to go through all this stuff after we get the approval for the CUP. So the water obviously is, I'm not going to read through all that stuff, it's already there. One thing I do want to hit on, though, is not a lot of people know, is that it's probably mining in general is probably the most heavily regulated industry in the United States. And MSHA, you know, they just don't show up when there's an accident. They show up based off of how many hours you work a year. You know, if you work, say, 1,000 hours, they're going to come in maybe once a year. If you work 2,000, they're going to do twice. And if you say 4,000, if you work a night shift, stuff like that, they'll come in quarterly. So, you know, and not only do they do that, you know, they check all the electrical stuff. I mean, they are super picky. I always said they're, you know, they are worried about safety, but they're really worried about making money because they never leave without writing you a fine. So yeah, so you guys need to pretty much worry about, you know, whether the site's just trying to make your job really good. Next, theoretical concerns. Noise. Obviously, everybody's concerned about noise. I'm concerned about noise. I don't like the highway. So things that will cause noise at a rock quarry. Most people know you have equipment, crushers, trucks, etc. You know, we have things in place to mitigate that. It's not that we're just going to create all this noise and it's going to be the worst thing on earth. No, we're going to be good people by having to burn up and doing our best. You know, if somebody comes over and says, hey, you know, we just, you know, some extreme thing, you know, trying to enjoy the evening or something, you know, more than likely, unless we were in the middle of something, he would say, okay, I respect that. You know, we'll shut the plant down or whatever. Anything can be, you know, done. So the way I would kind of look at it is we're not increasing the decimals in the area. We're just creating more of the same decimals. that makes sense. You know, I mean, the noise is already there. So, that's pre-existing ambient noise. It's just in the area because that stuff goes on every day anyways. Well, I don't know, the last time I think the, hams crushed was over a year ago. So they haven't blasted or put off the shot or crushed in over a year. So none of that stuff's been going on over there. We have vibrations, you know, vibrations, we experience those as homeowners, landowners every day. You know, when I'm over at the house that I bought, fixing it up and trying to make it better, you know, I hear trucks going over bridge abutments and I feel a vibration, you know. So blasting, it's similar, you know, you feel vibrations or you can hear them or whatever. It's, you know, when you have a thunderstorm or whatever, when lightning strikes, it expands the air, and when that void closes back up, you get a noise and a vibration. So, the blasting is highly regulated, extremely highly regulated, and they've got it down to a science. So Dean's going to talk about that stuff later. He's professional in that area. Environmental impacts. That stuff's monitored by the state. You don't really need to worry about that. Dennis is going to talk about that stuff later. Obviously, we talked about the roads a little bit. Already touched on that. They could be better, but we already used that stuff. Change in general. It's a common thing, but you know, this is going to change, not just rapidly and, you know, out of control. We're doing it within, you know, state, federal, and local regulations. You know, this isn't just some crazy thing that's going on. Another thing, I've done some mapping out there, and I'm sitting and thinking, and the elevation changes a lot. So there's 30-foot. So could we get a map real quick, please? So, right there, that's great. So from this location here to right here and there, it changes 30 feet. You would never guess it by looking at it, but when I went to Google Earth and used that, that's what it said. And then from there, the land falls this direction. So Stephanie's house line is down here. So for them to actually see anything going on would be, you know, actually it'd be impossible. I'm going that far to say it'd be impossible, especially by the time we get a berm there and the trees and whatever else. So that's another thing. So next is the property value. There's a study done, and I know a lot of people say studies don't matter, whatever, because they can be manipulated or whatever, but the study is actually solid. You can't just change it to make it work the way you want it to work. And that was conducted by the Phoenix Center, Quarry Operations and Property Values. You guys have a link to that in there so you can visit that stuff. So next, I guess, Matt is going to talk a little bit about the nature protected land use. Matt.
Hey, Jake, I got a couple questions. How long ago has it been since you made this first presentation? How long has it been since you proposed this project the first time?
I think it was last March.
Yeah, that'd be a better question for her because I've had a lot go on between now and then. Yeah.
I had to search the record to find it because I couldn't remember either, but I think it's under our March file, so I think
Yeah.
March meeting.
Maybe you can, is there a timeline between, can we see this every month? How often can this be presented to us once it's been turned out?
That'd be a great question for the attorney.
What?
So the question is, when you go see a CUP turned down, how long a period before it comes back as the same CUP?
And also, we didn't turn it down the first time. It was the commissioners.
Yeah,
Say
so
that again?
We didn't vote it down the first time. It was the commissioners that voted it down.
Okay.
So in this case, there was no CUP denial by this board.
So that begs the question, when it goes to the commissioners, is there a time period?
So what happened was this one went to court, and there was a resolution in court that allowed them to reapply because
Got it.
on the county's end, we did not follow each and every single one of the requirements.
Got it. Okay.
And as far as the timing, that's.
Stuff there in his hour.
Bylaws, it's home rule government.
So what has changed, Jake, what has changed since the first time you presented this? You talked about setbacks? What else?
Go ahead.
No, you said it.
Okay.
Setback.
I wish good question. Wish I would have a map.
Can you send it to the mic, please?
It's a great question. I wish I would have had the previous map and this map side by side, but a lot. So basically, the setbacks more so than anything. The hours of operation remain the same. The setbacks, and I would say that's probably in the berm. That was I guess, a big deal with the commissioners is they didn't really know the height of the berm. So that was maybe a reason.
The prior setbacks were what?
200. And the county requires 100. So I'm giving up a lot. And which is fine, I'm fine with that. So
you're 460 except on the west side, which is 250.
yeah, and there's no houses over there. There's a highway.
What about the homes in the northeast corner and the northwest corner?
The northeast corner, northwest. Okay.
You don't have measurements of those. Is there a reason why?
Well, I do. Go to your map. There you go. There's all the measurements you need right there.
Oh, there's the home. Isn't that a home in the, no. This is my list.
You own that home, correct?
Yeah, that's mine. Right. Yeah, we did. I guess we did. Sorry. Thanks, Dennis. We added that. We made it a little jet there to compensate because we've given up so much land that we needed a little more to make it work the way we wanted to work. So we did put
That
that.
home is yours?
Yeah,
What about this?
that one's mine too.
Okay. So before this, that was the case. So that's another thing.
Come back. Do what?
The first time that home in the northeast corner was not yours.
It was. Yes. Yeah, I've owned that for about 4 years, something like that.
And then the berm has changed, the height of the berm changed.
No, not really. I tried to make sense of the denial, but all you got to do is tell me what you want and get it done. But I can't make sense of nonsense.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Matt Blessing. I own Mulberry Limestone. Just kind of touch over, we'll be open Monday through Friday, 7 to 5. The quarrying process will be overburden removal. The blasting, the rocks, whenever you don't have that cap rock on the top where you got to bring any powder into it, it's all laminated. You can bump that rock. I mean, it cracks, and when you blast it, it's not like you see in the movies. But we'll be bringing in a primary crusher, secondary crusher, 2 screens. When we first start, we'll start down there where Jake owns his house there in the northwest corner. That pond that they show, can you go back to the map there? Yeah, that water reservoir right there, that will be for dust control. That will be discharged water going into that. Anything out of my pit will be going into that. We want a water reservoir. Plus, we're gonna stack up overburden to keep the noise down from the high. I thought that was a good spot right there to start. Our track equipment we can back up, crush, then pull out of there. But our objective is to open a pit, get down in the pit, and crush in the pit. So we'll be down 30 more feet. So is there 30-foot elevation change?
Right, yeah, I guess.
Then you got a 10-foot burn, so there's 30, there's 40. So then you got 30 foot inside the pit for 7 foot deep. By the time you get, if you're looking at it from the south. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Crushing operations, 6 months out of the year. We don't know what our sales will be. I mean, it depends on supply and demand. We might get it done in 3 months. I don't know what the sales are up here. What I'm interested in is Class 1 concrete rock. We don't have any ledges we've tested. Missouri won't pass for Kansas. Kansas won't pass for Missouri. So that's why I knew when this ledge come up here, it did pass for Class 1. Stockpiles. We show a stockpile area, set of scales, and when we move to the pit, our stockpiles, the biggest part of them will be down in the pit. Our clean rock will probably be up on top, but our stockpiles we'll try to move everything to the pit. And that's my objective. If we can bring the trucks in on a short, not so steep ramp, bring them down to the pit, open it up, and keep an area down there. We'll have our loader, crusher, everything will be in the pit. So, pre-blast survey, I recommend that. I'd like to see everybody get a pre-blast survey within 1,000 foot. We will pay for a pre-blast survey because I know everybody's worried about their basements and their concrete. I own a house 7 miles from a rock quarry, basement cracked right out the window. I mean, but we would like to have it, they go in, it's an independent company. Dean will touch more on it. It's an independent company. They come in, take pictures, they document everything.
Not to interrupt you, Matt.
Go ahead.
It's a great insurance policy.
It is. So, let me see here.
About how often do you blast?
We'll probably do once a month.
And do you have any plans on notifying the neighbors when that happens?
Any neighbor that wants notified, yes, we've got neighbors that, hey, would you give us a call in case we're home? That won't be a problem. Like I said, I get back into this Dean manual with Austin Powder.
I don't want to interrupt, Matt.
No,
but
go ahead.
We do that. Our company does that a lot of places. You know, if we're in close proximity, some people want to be notified the day before, some people an hour before. I mean, it just depends and varies on where you're at and the terrain and the conditions like that, but it's not a problem. We usually offer to make those contacts ourselves personally, or Matt can do it, whatever the neighbor prefers.
Okay.
So that
They also bring in seismographs. Every shot will be seismographed. So the nearest neighbor will be, the machines record everything, vibration. Dean will go into that on his, the berms. That was one of the big deals that Jim sent it back to the zoning board last time. He said, well, we need to have them berms documented. We need to know if you're having concrete driveway entrance. I thought we did, but he sent it back to zoning. Zoning sent it back to him, but I've got 2 driveway entrances that are KDOT. They got the radiuses, so when trucks pull out, they're not going through the mud. But that concrete driveway entrance will be the same level as your asphalt, so you're not jumping up on that asphalt, tearing it up. We don't see no problems on the one we got on 126 highway. We never have. The berms, like I said, 10 foot. By the time we're done, by the time we're in the pit, we're 70 foot to the neighbor to the south. By the time you had 10-foot berm in it. Like I said, on the crushing, we would like to move everything to the pit once we get a pit opened up. A lot of the rock will be used in our whole design is to make a lake. You gotta have something when you're done. I want water cells, whether it's a development for houses, depends on what the area wants. But that's what I'm interested in, making lakes. Gotta have a place to fish.
And this might not be a question for you, it might be for Mr. Wade. What do you think the lifetime of this quarry is gonna be?
Well, there's really no, I can't give you an exact number. It just depends. I mean, who knows? They might want to build a nuclear power plant over there. When they shut the coal one down, they require 4 million tons of rock. You know, that changes things drastically. So based off of the previous work that I've done in that area, because I know the sales of the Linn quarry when we sold, you know, we're looking at, if we go down to there's 2 ledges of rock there. You have the top ledge, which is Winterset, and you have a shale seam, 12 foot of shale. Then you got Bethany Falls below it, 15 feet. You know, you're looking at somewhere between 45 to 60 years, I'd say, somewhere in there. But, you know, don't hold me to that. So
Roundabout.
that's the best I can answer that question for you, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you.
Talk about
Hopefully it's 20.
12 foot of shale. What will you do with excess shale?
So a lot of times, they like the pit, and when they reclaim stuff, they want to leave the high walls up, so the water will come up and it looks more like a pit. It just, you know, everybody has a preference, right? But sometimes for safety, we could take that material, you know, if there was concerns or, you know, whatever, that, you know, we wanted like a 3-to-1 slope, saying coming off the Winterset high wall down to the water level. You could use that material to put along the high wall there and get your slope.
That's a lot of shale, 12 foot. Is that what you said? 12 foot of shale?
That's right. But
We'll
also
still have 30 foot of
hang on.
berm up there.
Hang on a
the
second.
top.
But so you also got to remember that 30 foot times 6,000 feet, it's a lot of feet. You know, by the time you're going 30 foot down to, you know, so I understand what you're saying. Yes, it is a lot of shale, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done if you were going to put that around there. And I'm not opposed to it, you know. We could do that, no problem. I just like the quarry pit. The one to the south, neighbor, they have a really nice place. They have one right behind their house. There's 2 pits there. To you guys, they look like ponds, but to me, they're pits. And that rock from those pits back in 1970 was used to make the riprap for the power plant dam.
Gotcha.
So, you know, what I'm getting at is that provided a really nice place for Stephanie to build a house. You know, you can just jump off a cliff and when you jump in the water, you know, it's not, you don't have something you got to walk through weeds or weed eat around it. You just have a ledge. There you are, where you can fish right there by. So that's, to me, it's more desirable, but it could also, you know, be a safety concern if, you know, you're worried about somebody that's, you know, going to come over and try to do something they shouldn't be doing.
A lot of times on that bottom shale, we'll take and open up a pit, blast it out, then we'll move the shale behind into the pit that we've already blasted out. So a lot of the shale, then we'll start sloping our banks.
How deep is your core there?
What's that?
How deep is your core? How deep do you run out of rock?
We got 30 foot on top, we got 12 foot of shale.
65 or 70 foot total depth, so maybe 34, 12, 15, 14, something like that.
So we'll be able to backfill. The shale stay in the pit. We're not gonna be hauling shale and making a mountain outside that pit. Shale will stay in the pit. We're working on the top and the class 1 first. And we'll start over in the corner. Usually you start your pit, your hole in the lowest corner of your pit. That way you got a place to pump out of. So that would be right there where Jake's proposed pond is and his house. They're in the northwest corner.
So when the quarry's done, all the shale's gonna stay in the bottom of the quarry?
Yes.
When
Shale, there won't be a mountain.
And you fill it back up with water?
Yes.
Even throughout the whole process, it won't, I mean.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
stockpile.
It's
shale.
inefficient to
Right.
haul that stuff and
Right.
change elevation.
I got you.
That's just, yeah.
Let me see here. Talked about that, let's talk about the driveway entrance for concrete, KDOT approved. We've already done a couple of those. County setback was 100 foot. We're gonna be 750 foot from the neighbor's house on the south side. To her house will be 750 foot from where we're blasting.
Yes, sir.
460 feet from neighboring property lines. Go ahead.
One thing I'd like to add to that is that by the time we get down there to the 700 and whatever, would you say it was?
750.
750 feet to the neighbor to the south, to their location, that's going to be I mean, at least 35 years for sure, you know, so there's not going to be any disturbance going on for quite a while, if any.
Frank Rockers, he was a friend of mine, but he done a lot of growth development around pre-existing quarries. I think they got maps of that, right?
Yeah, you need to pull that up.
Okay. Bear Construction was operated in 1972, 35 new houses, and Horse Arena had been constructed since 1991. They range as close as 200 feet to 3/4 of a mile. Midwest Minerals, Parsons Quarry, they opened in 1959, 15 new houses, 325 feet. Midstate Materials, which was the one that bought out Wade Quarries. There's 100 new houses in Linn County Park, have been established in 91. They range from 625 feet to 1.5 miles. Midstate Materials then sold to Summit, and Summit then sold again to Quick Creek. They got a new set of owners. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go back up. So at this was done in 2017. And the last house that was built by the Lacine Quarry there that Hams now operates, it's not on the map, but its closest point is 200 and where's it? I think. You can go to your 479 feet to the nearest pit. That's actually right there is where the crusher is sitting. That's where all the activity. They mine the rock from the on the west side of the property, which is Youth Front. Topher, he's here tonight, and they haul the rock over to the other side and process it. And the crusher is sitting about 500 foot from Mr. Walker's house.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I kind of turned shambles there. There you go.
I think you're good for now.
Okay. I'm going to introduce Dean Manuel with Austin Powder, and we can touch on the seismograph reports and the blasting and.
We're gonna switch it a little bit here, I think.
Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
I just want to my name is Dennis Meyer. I'm a Triad Environmental Services. I'm a professional engineer and a registered geologist, and we've been down in Pittsburgh, Kansas since 1986, more or less. And my background is I've helped lots of rock quarries, landfills, environmental assessments, coal mines, roads, bridges, not bridges. I can't do bridges. Anyway, work for the different county. Anyway, I wanted to touch this basically and let you know that to get a mining permit and get a quarry, there are just multiple steps that they have to go through. So we start here with you guys. Obviously, we find out where the rock reserves are. We work with our clients as to how deep they want to go, where they want to go. They show us the areas. And then from there, we start in to do all the different assessments. And in order to get a mining permit, you then have to reach out to all the other agencies, whether it's water, it's air, it's the Fish and Wildlife Service, it's the Kansas Wildlife and Parks, the archaeologic surveys, for archaeologic habitat, threatened and endangered species, all those things. So it's not an easy task, but we begin here and then we do a preliminary. That's kind of where we were at a year or so ago. And there's not been a whole lot changed since then, but just to basically go over them very quickly. So the mining permit is going to be with one agency. It's out of the Department of Agriculture in Kansas here. And we supply similar maps to what you have here. They have different regulations for their setbacks. Mainly their setbacks are from a point of control. If you're going so far and deep in the ground, they want 1.5 times that distance to set yourself back. And then they'll have slopes. And as Matt and Jake have both explained, when they get finished, they have a giant hole, basically, and 90% of the time it becomes as much water as we can do. So our objective is to try to capture as much water, capture the watersheds, all during the mining process. Pretty much everything that touches a particular area is under control. So in other words, you have a stormwater management plan that requires you to build berms and to direct it over to a discharge point at one place or another. In this particular project, we will have basically just one discharge point up in that northwest corner where the lake is. And the water would then leave. There could be 1 or 2 different ponds up there, but ultimately it'll go underneath the road and then flow to the north. Everything along the eastern boundary and the western boundary will pretty much come into the pit area as we go. There's several terraces that are across that field. And there should be no water really leaving the property going either to the east or to the south there. So everything will pretty much drain through there. Wherever there's disturbance areas, the mining areas, things of that nature there, that water goes back into a pit that will develop early on, and it'll go that way. Before we get too far down the road, we look at, like I said, threatened and endangered species up in this area. So we've done some preliminary evaluations, and in every part of Kansas, we've got some kind of threatened and endangered species that's either coming on the list. Some of them are going off. Believe it or not, they're working on the monarch butterfly. So I'm not sure if the monarch butterfly gets on the list, how anybody would ever do anything, because they're everywhere at different points in time. But the biggest things is that they want to see what kind of habitat you have out there. So let's say a prairie mole cricket or some type of salamander. They each have their own little habitats. So those get evaluated. We go through the different regulatory agencies and they will give us clearance on that. Archaeologic, I had mentioned earlier on, we will contact both Indian in different areas. We have Indian tribes that we have to work with. And then we have the historical societies. And they're mainly looking for buildings that would be close by or things of that nature. At this particular site here, with us being fairly close to the Meredith River, not too far away, the lake and all that habitat, we already know that there's some type of archaeologic feature that's within a mile of this particular area there. They can't disclose it to us at this point in time because they don't want people doing it. But anyway, that's a thing that comes up. We would address that through the proper studies with those groups there. Like I said, the threatened and endangered species, those get evaluated, those get marked off the list as well. Waters of the United States is what they call basically any kind of flowing streams, creeks of that nature there. We generally have prohibitions that if they're intermittent streams, in other words, if they flow more than just after the rainstorm, so in other words, a week later or 2 weeks later, they're continuing to flow, then those have a certain classification. And typically, we don't go into those. We'll set back adjacent to those particular areas. This particular case, the Corps of Engineers and some of the other agencies were a little bit concerned about the water on that on the eastern side. So again, a farmer can build a lake whenever he wants to. And so that's where we visit with Jake and he says, let's just not go over there. Let's leave those little ponds, those little things, because if there are frogs or whatever, they will tend to move over into those areas. So if you have something like that and it's sort of set aside, that's a good way to compensate. And again, they will give those approval. We always look at floodplains to make sure we're not in floodplains. We're way out of that. We don't have any concerns there. Wetlands is another area that they're trying to protect, but again, we're in a situation where they're juggling things back and forth all the time. So now the current administration has a different view than the previous administration, but right now they're sort of tying them together with a term called nexus. So in other words, if you have a particular area and you have a wetland that's right next to it and it's connected to it, then they're wanting to try to protect those. Again, we're pretty much up on top of the hill and out and away from all that. Air pollution, we touched on that very briefly as well. In order to run these crushers or to operate a particular mine site, you have to get an air pollution permit, and it pretty much regulates mainly dust, and it's for both the benefit of the operators, the employees that are on the particular property, as well as the adjacent neighbors in that. So typically at the mine quarries where we see the most activities is along their haulage routes, and there's requirements there that when you get into those periods, they use the water that they have to keep the dust down as they would track back and forth, so you don't have all the dust up in the air there. We had mentioned before mine health and safety. They're another agency that comes in and regulates. They watch over the equipment. They watch over the health and safety of the workers. There's different noise monitoring. There's air pollution type things, even in the cabs and things of that nature there. But again, it's just another permit that you're required to get there. And then I think lastly is the blasting activities. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dean here. We're kind of running along here, but Dean, the blasting is a very important part of all this. And the way it's set up, it's highly regulated. It's very controlled. The idea is to break it just enough, right, Dean? Just enough so that they can get it out of the pit and get it over to the processing. So I think with that, I'll let Dean go into the blasting part.
So I'm Dean Manuel.
Are there any questions?
Sorry.
Before I get away from that. Very good. Thank you.
I'm Dean Manuel with Austin Powder Company. So a little bit about my background. I spent about 17 years with the Caterpillar family with the dealer network in this area. The last 20 years I've been with Austin Powder Company, and I've been involved in about every facet of styles and blasting techniques, from coal to seismic exploration, a little bit of everything. So that's a little bit about me. Our company or our industry is highly regulated on a local level where our magazine site's at. We're subject to ATF inspections regularly. International Society of Explosive Engineers, if you see the initials ISEE, that's what it is. All of our people we're members of that society. MSHA is the one that will regulate us on site here at this property, at all mine properties. So we are subject to all of the MSHA rules. OSM, Office of Surface Mining, they're out east, but we follow all their regulations to the letter of the law. You know, everything we designed is designed by their guidelines. So I want to touch on that a little bit. As these guys mentioned, I think we expect maybe 12 blasts a year. If we operate 6 months out of the year, that'll be 2 a month. If you look at the size shots that we've designed to open this pit up, you're talking about each blast is duration, 100 holes, a duration of 2.5 seconds. So that will be the disruption in vibration and air blast. And, but our shots are designed to control all of that. We can, as far as the explosives themselves, nothing will be stored on site. You know, that brings ATF in if we do that. We don't want to do that. We store everything at our magazine site. We bring our bulk trucks in the day of. We have everything that we need on those bulk trucks. We bring it in. We don't leave anything behind. Everything's picked up, trash included. We take it all with us. Any questions on any of that? On the governing agencies, governmental bodies that govern us? ATF will be a regular, or not ATF, I'm sorry, MSHA, Missouri. No, it's Kansas, right? Yeah, Mine Health and Safety. They will be a regular part of this operation here. I would expect a couple inspections a year from those guys. And if we're on site, we're the ones they come to first. because they want to see what we got on the truck. They want to make sure all of our shipping papers match what we say we have and the quantities all match. They give us a once over with dates on fire extinguishers, tires, wheel chocks, hard hats, PPE, all the personal protective equipment. We gotta follow the letter of that law too, or it's pretty heavy fines for us, as well as these guys operating the quarry. So seismographs. We provide portable seismographs everywhere we go. They're third-party seismographs. They're calibrated by the third party. We set them up at the closest protected structure, or closest structure, I guess. Maybe we call it unprotected. I don't know. Closest structure that's not under control of the property. So we would be asking neighbors to set a portable unit up in close proximity to their structures or whatever, and to monitor what we're doing there and make sure we're close to what we predict that we should be doing. It's a small unit. It's got 3 prongs on it. You plug the geophone into the ground. So a seismograph consists of the monitor itself that reads the vibration. There's a geophone that's approximately 4 inches in diameter, 3 pegs. We stick that in the ground. And then you've got a microphone. It just looks like a regular mic, but it measures air pressure. So we measure air overpressure, and we measure all the vibrations in the ground. Any questions on seismographs?
Actually, you said that the neighbor would be handling that. Are you talking about like someone would come out and?
No, we will handle that at the neighbor.
Okay, that's
At
what
the,
I thought you meant. But
yeah, at the closest house. I might have misspoke. I apologize. No, we will handle setting it all up. And normally what we do, we set that up right before a blast. And then we'll have a guy go over there when he sets it up, and he'll stay with it. And if the neighbor wants to visit, see the reading, no problem. We're happy to share it. There is also a thing we can do, another third-party thing, a permanent seismograph. If we have the need for that, we can set up a permanent unit that just stays. If we've got a concentration of houses or properties that need to be monitored, we can set a permanent up between where we're working and where they're at. And it's always a third party that comes in. We've got several companies that do that. And then we all get a text message on our phone as soon as the shot goes off, telling us what the vibration was and what the air pressure was. So a little bit about air pressures. A cloudy day, the air pressure, what we monitor is the displacement of the air. If this top of this lectern is the shot surface, when that shot goes off, that air gets displaced. So if you got a low ceiling that day, a low cloud cover, that displacement will tend to go out. If you've got a high ceiling or cloudy, it's not a cloudy day, it's a clear day, that air displacement will have a tendency to go up, so you'll feel less of that. But people in structures can feel that air blast, even if the ground vibration is nothing. You can still feel it. We design our shots to control the air pressure as well as the ground vibration. So I think Jake may have touched on this before, but a clap of thunder, that's air displacement. We've all had claps of thunders that rattle the windows or rattle dishes or whatever. Same principle. That's not in the ground. That's coming from air displacement, a clap of thunder, or the old sonic booms, for those of us who are old enough to remember those. When an airplane broke the sound barrier, you'd get a tremendous boom, and same thing. Rattled windows. Yep.
So in comparison, say, a real loud clap of thunder takes place, how would that compare to an average shot?
Well, the legal limit, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
The legal limit in Kansas and Missouri, both regulated by OSM and MSHA, is 133 decibels. So that's we don't want to be anywhere close to that. All of our shots are designed to be down in that mid-20s and lower. We don't want to touch 133. So it takes a lot of differentiation in noise to raise a couple decibels. It takes quite a bit to do that. So that's the legal limit. We anticipate for the designs that we have at this location from 110 to 120, based on the load type that we're going to use. So that's what we anticipate there. The vibration in the ground itself is measured in sine waves if you look at it on a printout. So it's not a physical movement. You see the sine wave on a graph, but it's not physically moving the ground. The legal limits in Kansas and Missouri, both set by OSM, is 2 inches, 2 inches of peak particle velocity. And so several things go into that, and I don't want to get in too much detail unless somebody wants to know. But you can exceed a point where you will do damage under 2 inches if your frequencies are too low. If the sine waves are too close together, the frequencies are too low, and you can't exceed that. So our designs take all that into consideration. We want that sine waves far apart. We want high frequencies is what we want. So we take all that into consideration. Can you feel it? Yep, you sure can. But everything is designed to be well under the state legal limits that Missouri and Kansas both recognize, MSHA recognizes, and OSM recognizes. And we can discuss that all you guys want to, or we can get in as much depth as you want to in it. But I'll move on here in the interest of time. Our shots are designed to control the peak particle velocity, the air blast, and we use scale of distance to help regulate some of that. So scale of distance, everything is usually, the accepted OSM scale of distance is called a 55. If the weight of the powder and a mathematical calculation with the distance from the closest protected structure is greater than 55, you're good. If it's less than 55, you need to redesign. You don't have to, but Kansas and Missouri both say if you're under 55, you have to run a seismograph. If you're over 55, you technically do not need a seismograph according to OSM or Kansas or Missouri. However, our internal policy is we seismograph every shot, no matter what. We want to build that track record. We want that database of history. As we change locations in that pit, we want to know how that rock's reacting. We want to monitor all that, and we need that database so we can ensure that we're doing the right thing. We change directions sometimes. Shooting one way, change 90 degrees, shoot the other way. Sometimes that changes a lot of stuff. So the way we design our shots is going to be making every effort we can to send the vibration away from any protected structure so that they're feeling as minimal as possible. So I've looked at all that with this pit here too. So those are the 3 things that we really take into consideration. Austin Powder owns proprietary software. One of the slides is up there. So we plug everything into this slide here to get our clearance distances, and we can play with that. The 9 foot of yellow there represents powder. The 6 foot on the top represents a stone deck in a borehole that's 15 foot deep. Shows 6 feet of stemming over there. So the other side shows some distances. It doesn't have all of them on there, but the collar range with a lift shot like what we're proposing, which will start out with this, no open face, a lift shot, 394 feet is the maximum distance that rock can go. And if you look down at the bottom, probability from collar having a fly rock that goes that far is 1 in 48,000. So none of us in this room are going to see 48,000 shots there. None of us are going to make it that long unless we've got superpowers. So go down to that next slide, if you would, there with the circles on it. So the center of the yellow is the proposed starting point for the first shot. The yellow circle represents that 394 feet, which would be 1 in 48,000 chances that we would get out to the yellow line from the center of the shot. The red line simply represents the distance to 69 highway there for a reference. And as you can see, there's no structures inside that line anywhere. Now, we will move north from there and we'll move closer to the highway. When we do, we'll change the design. We'll make sure we keep those circles on that map right where they need to be. We'll start changing everything. I wanted to start just a little farther away when we open the pit up so that we build that database of history. We understand the reaction of this rock. And our company and myself, we're not new to this area. We did work for the Wade family when it was their quarry. So we have history in that quarry right across the road. We've done work for CRH quarry in the area. We've done a lot of work around this area, but primarily the closest ones are right there in the Wade's quarry. So we helped open that last pit that Jake and his dad had over there. So we do have some data, but this is a new spot. So we want to report ourselves to the fire marshal, all the local authorities before we ever start. We want to know, Missouri's got a little bit different rules on that. We have to apply to the Missouri State Fire Marshal. It's not an application process. We just fill it out and send it to them. In Kansas, I'm pretty familiar with the fire marshal, state fire marshal here in Kansas too. So as a courtesy, I will reach out long before any operations start and present everything to him as well. So Pre-blast surveys, Matt touched on pre-blast surveys. I highly recommend that. It's a pretty detailed deal. It's third party that comes in and does all that. Basically what they do, they will circle the outside perimeter of your foundation. They will videotape everything 360 all the way around. They'll videotape your roof line. They'll videotape your headers on all your windows from the outside, your doors. They'll look at everything. If it's a basement, they're going to go in the basement. They'll videotape 360. They'll note every crack that they can find. And if we, God forbid, we're not going to let this happen, but if we had a reading that was out of line and you have a crack show up that's not in that pre-blast survey, we don't have a leg to stand on. We're big boys. We're going to step up to the plate and we're going to take care of it. We're not even going to argue about it. But if it's a crack that's there, you know, we've got it documented. But if it's new crack, then for everybody's protection, I would recommend they do it. I've helped do several of those. So it's not a new thing. We always use a third party company to do that. And then they keep those files for us and give a copy to the neighbors and so forth. Elevation difference is one of the notes that I've got on here. The finished pit will be well below the elevation of all the houses around, even the first 15 foot we take out. If they've got enough stripping done and they have all their berms up, I don't think you'll be able to see any of it. Lift shots, the first 2 or 3 shots will probably operate as a lift shot or design them as a lift shot. As long as you don't have an open face, everything puffs up, puffs back down. If you've got shrubbery and trees and brush, fauna around, that thing's about to get in my way. If you've got all that kind of stuff around with this lift shot, I doubt you will even see it. You're not going to see anything hump up. Now, when we get opened up where we have an open face, then yeah, you might see some of that, but it's doubtful. We're going to design to be as peaceful and neighbor friendly as possible. So the first shot that's proposed that we've done our design for will be 7x7 pattern, 7 foot square, a hole on every corner of that, 15 to 17 foot deep based on what we find when we run the first bore hole down and see where we're at with everything. 3.5 inch diameter holes, 6 foot of stem height. So in other words, if it's 15 foot, 9 feet of powder and 6 feet of stemming material, which is usually just, for anybody that doesn't understand stemming material, that's just a crushed stone, like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch crushed stone. You want crushed stone because it locks together in the hole good. So we put the powder in the ground, explosives in the ground. We dump that crushed stone on there, it locks together and it prevents it from rifling out the top. And you'll have 1 cap and 1 booster per hole. Our powder, we need about 2 pounds of powder per cubic yard, which is about 2.2 tons. So we use about 2 pounds to start off. That will shrink drastically. Once we get an open face, we'll go down to about 0.6 pounds per ton to get the minimum breakage that you need. Any questions?
They're all individual shots.
Yes. No, each individual.
Each hole
Yeah.
goes off 8 or 9 milliseconds. The next hole goes off. So it's not like 30 holes and they all go off at the same time.
So yeah, you're fine. No. So we propose that first shot be about 150 holes. We'll take a look and do some more modeling, but we can shoot those 17 milliseconds between holes, 25 milliseconds between holes. We'll take a look at what the best case scenario is for the least amount of vibration. So a lift shot, you start it in the center and then it expands out to all 4 corners. And if you have 25 milliseconds apart on those, you won't have 17 either one. You won't have more than 3 holes per delay, which will give you about, I've got it on here someplace. Maybe I don't have it on here, but you're talking about less than 75 pounds of powder going off for every 8 milliseconds. So OSM and MSHA, that's a standard rule, is no 2 holes going off within 8 milliseconds of each other. So as long as we abide by that rule, the vibration will not compound. We can have a hole going off every 8 milliseconds and the air blast or the vibration from one hole will not compound with the next hole. No 2 holes will compound on each other. I think I said Missouri and Kansas both is 2 inches of peak particle velocity air blast. We predict that to be about a 110 to 120, depending on which way the wind's blowing. And if you have a low ceiling, low cloud cover, that can drive it up. So on a clear day right here, we would expect about a 110. On a cloudy day, we'd expect a 120 with the shot that we have designed. And we've got a lot of history with these predictions and the software that we use to do that. It's used all across the world. Our company's global. We're everywhere. They use this in China. They use it in Europe, Australia, everywhere. The same program we use to predict right here with. We've already explained the map a little bit. I will open it up and entertain any questions that anybody has. Yes, sir.
Homeowner pre-blast survey, can you expand on that a little?
Yeah, it's a third-party company. There used to be one down here in Joplin that they no longer do it, but we've got another company called Saul's Seismic. They come in and do a lot of for us right now. And basically, I think letters, Dennis, correct me on this, we send out registered letters to all the homeowners. And so then they have an opportunity to accept or decline and notify us if they want it. And then that will be, it won't be us. It won't be the quarry people. It won't be us. It'll be a third party then for all the people who respond positively and want one. They will reach out to that homeowner. They'll come in and schedule it with the homeowner and they'll go through the whole process. These guys will retain a copy of it. Homeowner will get a copy of it. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, I want a follow-up question.
Sure.
You cover the expense of that?
Yes, 100%.
And what is the range of that letter? Like, are you going out 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet?
Matt mentioned 1,000 feet. We don't have any policy internally ourselves that governs that, but Matt mentioned everybody within 1,000 feet. Because when you get outside of 1,000 feet, it's not going to be a problem.
What time of day do you usually shoot?
Usually, so our start times are 7 a.m. And, depending on the size of the shot and the complexity of the shot and the timing that we use on it, we're done and gone before noon. If we're there at 7 a.m., we get some complications, or Murphy's Law applies to everything. If we have an equipment problems or something like that, we could run into early afternoon. But very seldom would we run past 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And something was mentioned about neighbor notifications. I think I will touch on that just a little bit. We do that ourselves personally in a lot of places because we kind of know when we're going to come. We have an idea when we're going to shoot. And so if we need to notify them the day before, that usually falls on me. I'm the sales rep. And I'll notify them the day before. If they want a notification an hour before, usually our blaster who's on site, the blaster in charge, he'll take care of that responsibility. Or if these guys want to handle that responsibility, we'll be happy to do it. So we do a lot of, this is, nothing is simple, but this is pretty simple to us. So we do a lot of blasting in a lot of places in Springfield, Branson, Joplin, Kansas City, St. Louis. We blast in very close proximity, much closer than what we're talking about here. And so it gets pretty complex when you start putting, literally a fast food drink cup full of powder in with a booster, and then you put 2 foot of stone deck in, you put another, maybe a pound of powder in and another booster. We've done all kinds of things like that to make sure we control the vibration up to within 25, 50 feet of structures. But the key thing is to make sure you know what you're doing and make sure that you design that shot for that. You cannot do that just anywhere. You got to design it. You got to plug all the parameters in, or the old school guys do it by hand. They'll get out a notebook full of paper and burn 10 pages in there doing all the math and making sure they're good. Some of them don't even trust this stuff yet, but we're seeing 99% accuracy on everything we predict. We can even control the shape of the muck pile with how we time. Once you have an open face, we've had people that have a sump in one corner over here. They want to shoot the whole thing out, but we're getting a little too close to the sump. So we'll design it so the muck pile extends farther on one side than the other, and this side of the shot directs back towards the first muck pile. So we protect that sump. We can do all kinds of things. But I just want to assure everybody that we know what we're doing. We know how to get close. All the powder companies do. We have some proprietary software that they don't have, but they've all got some version of whatever they use. And we're not new to this. I think we're in 27 countries around the world, and we're all over North America. We've done building demos. We still do bridge demolition. We do all kinds of stuff.
Any other questions? Thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
Ben, you want to read off the staff report? You can do it there, or you can go to the podium if you're feeling.
You want me to go to? I had
You can.
one more. I just kind of wanted to reiterate some things. So this land the site is suitable. You know, it's got an excellent rock source. It's on the same ledge as the neighboring quarry. The transportation routes are already used for similar traffic. Current infrastructure allows for it. Land has no other pending development potential. You know, that piece of ground, it really has no other use at this point. It's more suitable for a rock quarry than anything else. The size of the parcel, it allows obviously for the significant setbacks to, you know, to ensure that everybody is taken care of, and, you know, we're not imposing on people's privacy and right there in your face type of stuff. And also, you know, as I've stated once, the setbacks exceed the regulation by over 4.5 times. I think that's pretty good. And then, you know, there will be no visibility from outside the quarry operations. The topography in the berm and moving all the crushing equipment down into the pit. One thing that I forgot to say was when I designed that berm that goes around the whole property, I had the neighbors to the south in mind because, as I said, that land drops off. Okay, so if I put the berm all the way up against the fence line, what does that do? It blocks off all their water that goes to their lake, you know, and I don't want to do that. Especially the neighbor closest along 69 Highway. There's actually, I think, an old quarry there at one point in time, and I think he's worked pretty hard on that piece of ground to where, you know, he could actually retain some water. So he would still be getting a good amount of water to keep his pond full and keep his fish alive. So, any other questions for me? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want me to go up there?
If you want to.
All right, I'm gonna read off the staff findings for this cup. The use does fit the character of the neighborhood as all nearby properties are agricultural. The
Actually,
zone.
Ben, for the record, can you read off the address as well?
Oh yes, sorry. The legal address?
The
Or just the
commonly used address.
location. The commonly address as 22779 East 2400 Road, Lacing, Kansas 66040. Current zoning, agriculture, zoning and use nearby is agriculture. You want me to keep the notice?
No, I think you're good.
No?
It's been sent out to the
Okay.
surrounding neighbors.
Okay. All right. Then I'll go back into the staff findings. The use does fit with the character of the neighborhood as all nearby properties are agricultural. The zoning of nearby properties are agricultural and countryside. The property is suitable for proposed use. The proposed use, same as across the road, does not appear to determinately affect nearby properties. Property will remain as currently zoned as agricultural and has been vacant. With proper conditions, the use will not determinately affect the public health, safety, and welfare and would benefit public by providing a boost in local economy. The request CUP conforms to the Linn County current comprehensive plan. Staff does recommend approval of the CUP with recommendations and findings from Golden Verse, the city of Overland Park. Must comply with all state and federal regulations. Permits be kept on file with Linn County Planning and Zoning Office. Hours of operation 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Heavy equipment hours of operation shall not include maintenance on equipment, loading or unloading of equipment for transport operations that occur indoors and operations necessitated by emergency situations. No storage of explosives, egress and ingress to 2400 road. CUP permit, the CUP permit, to be renewed in 5 years. And that is it.
Okay. And that last bit is the staff recommendations that we add on to our listed conditions in our zoning regulations.
Okay.
Just
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
and does anyone have anything they want to add? Any conditions? I know it's mentioned in the staff recommendations, but I want to have a truck route. I think it's what it's called, like a designated truck route that the trucks leaving the quarry need to take the 2400 road and not. I don't remember what other road that is.
Valley,
Yeah.
2400 to Ulrey.
And the comprehensive plan mentions quite often, or a few times, to preserve the corridor of the highway. I'd like to add a requirement of putting in evergreen trees on the great, my brain's blank.
West side of the berm.
Yeah, the west side of the berm, or on top of the berm, along the west side of the property is what, yeah. Let's see. And I know it was mentioned in their speech, but I want to add it into our conditions that they will provide a pre-blast survey to any of the neighbors within 1,000 feet that would like it at the cost of the company. Anything else?
Question, you said it would be renewed in 5 years. Is there some reason for that? Is that a standard condition of anything? Because it's gonna be here for many, many years. I was
We
just
usually-
curious why it's 5 years and not life of the mine or whatever it would be.
We usually, in the past, have set renewal dates so that we can keep track of what's going on, make sure that everything is being maintained as we require. And so it's not the same, like, CUP, it's not the same process you're going through right now. It's just, you come into a meeting in 5 years, our director says they're maintaining everything that needs to be
As long as
maintained.
they're in good standing
Yeah.
during that 5 years. It's not like, well, we've got a whole different board and now.
We just look over what's required of you, and then we give you the approval and you continue on.
I mean, in the past, that may change. If things are going well, that could be 10 years or 20 years. It's just upfront and, you know, with making sure that everything is copacetic with the neighbors and things like that. Having a shorter time frame up front for a review opportunity is where the 5 years came from.
So after that renewal, we can always move it back if everything is going well. Any other questions, concerns? Okay. Let's see. Does anyone in the surrounding area have any comments, concerns that they would like to add? You maxed out at 3 minutes? Can we keep it under 5 minutes?
Yeah, one of the ladies couldn't be here because she had some medical issues, so she wrote a letter. I sent it to you, Ben. Did you?
I sent it to all the
Did you
members.
send it to
Yes.
everybody? Okay, so I don't need to give you guys a
Can
copy
we
of
write it
it.
unless you want it just on the public record?
If you guys did read it,
We did.
okay. Just wanted to make sure that, she wanted to make sure you guys read it.
Can you state your name and where you're
Yes,
from?
my name is Stephanie Walker and I live at 23420 Valley Road, and my property, I'm the one that Jake keeps referring to. My property is the one that's up to his. That'll be 460 feet from the blasting site. Do you guys, I mean, would you guys be good with that, 460 feet from your home? I mean, is that something that would concern you? I'm just asking.
Just from a point that was 30 years from now, from the blasting, where it's at your house, that distance from your house.
So no worries, I'll be dead and gone? Just a question. Last year we were here going through this, we had over 80% of the landowners that was within that 1,000 feet range that were here opposing it, that we weren't happy with having this in our area. We did go through the protest petition to find out that the rock quarry is exempt from it. So just to let you know, none of us are wanting it. None of us in the area, none of the landowners. The planning and zoning regulations list commercial and development of natural resources as commercial extraction of raw materials such as rock, gravel, and sand. As a land use permit is an area zoned as an agricultural district, the intent portion of that document states uses that might have nuisance characteristics if intermingled in developed residential areas are permitted on the basis that they are more offensive than normal agricultural issues. This query would be very offensive to us in the area with the blasting, with the dust, and with the trucks. To me, it would be not like your normal farmland with the farmers just coming in and planting their crops or taking their crops out. So just something that I wanted to point out. And a couple things I wanted to point out, and what Jake had to say earlier is he has the 2 homes, but he doesn't live in either one of those homes either. Again, we are all opposing it. We, again, aren't for it. And we hope you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If anyone else wants to speak, you can stand up when he's done. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Zach Walker, and I own and live in the house on 23953 Valley Road. So I brought this map in here. So here's the proposed square area, which I know it's not exactly perfect, but that's the property there with the paints showing there. And right here would be my house, directly to the northeast of the proposed quarry. This map, like I said, I'm sure all you know, we went through this all once, a year ago or so. And during that time, I had gone around, me and Stephanie both had gone around with kind of a petition, just for representation, because obviously everybody can't get on it, right? And so the yellow dots are houses, basically, that are the nearest houses to the area. And then the ones that are overlaid with pink dots are people that either verbally spoke against it at one point in time during the last go around, or they signed a petition. So all the pink dots represent all those people. And the yellow dots are just houses, just to represent the houses. The reason that I think me and most people on that are shown on the map are against it would be noise pollution. You got blasting, crushing, trucking, and I know Jake spoke earlier on the crushing, and I think he was referring to my house that it was the 500 feet away. And he's right that they haven't crushed since sometime during the winter, I think it was. But when they are crushing, it is fairly loud, especially when you get a wind that's coming from the direction that that it's being done in. So in my situation where I'm at, I could potentially be hearing the crushing during the winter time from the north. And then if I get another quarry to my east, my southeast, and I'll be getting it during that time period of the year as well, on top of the dust following the wind as well, because sometimes when they're over there doing their work and the wind's in the right direction, it does get visibly dusty in the area. And I had another question on that. I didn't hear him touch on exactly how the air quality. I know that you guys said that the air quality was under guidelines and such, but I never heard how it's necessarily constantly would be monitored. And then obviously I know there's a lot of people concerned about the roads and the traffic. I know that they're proposing that they won't necessarily have more traffic because of the existing quarry, but as far as I'm concerned, if the other quarry doesn't have the first grade or grade A concrete rock like this one proposed to, then I don't see why you wouldn't have another subset of people coming in specifically for the concrete rock that they're proposing to mine out of that quarry versus the other quarry. Like I said, road conditions, I know everybody's, that kind of taps in with having extra traffic, probably have more wear and tear on the roads from the 18-wheelers coming in and out, yada, yada. And then, you know, I can't remember the exact amount of years that, Jake, that you said that you thought that the other quarry might still be in business. I think last time you might have said 10 or 15 years, something like that, is what you proposed. I mean, I'm not whole.
That's over on there's still the rock pressure and all that. We just started over there because it's more accessible. So you take off 6 foot of dirt, you get 31 foot of rock, as opposed to take off 12 foot of shale. And you have to rip that with a dozer, and then you put all that effort in that, and then you only get 14 foot of rock. So the expense is substantial.
Right. I just couldn't remember the exact amount of years you said that the other one might be in business necessarily. Right. But another one of my concerns would be that, okay, my house is right there, and yes, I do have to deal with the current quarry, but since it's been mining since the 70s or whenever, you know, I think that's what they said, but during the 70s, you know, I would be, as far as the noise and the stuff that I dislike about it now, you know, if I held out for another 20 years or whatever, because I'm obviously still young, so I'll still be there. I can wait that out, and then I can get rid of the noise and the truck traffic and all that stuff. Whereas, you know, if this one gets put in on the other side of the road, that one goes out, and I still have to deal with all the same stuff on the other side of the road. And then, yeah, like I said, just because there's one doesn't mean that, you know, all of us need two. Like for my situation, you know, I had a good opportunity to put my house where it was. You know, it was convenient for my family. It was what I could afford. You know, there might be better spots, but it was convenient for me. That's why I put my house there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I want another quarry on the other side of my house. I know he's trying to be generous with the 460-foot offsets, but in the long run of things, you know, that's still not far. That's a football field and a half. I mean, it's still fairly close within reason. And I know he's trying to, you know, accommodate, but it's still fairly close. And then, yeah, and then the highway noise. I know, you know, they were touching on that. You know, we were already dealing with the highway noise in that area, but I can attest personally from being where my house is that especially the grinding and the blasting is much louder than what I get from highway traffic. And honestly, between me and the highway traffic, I don't have a whole lot of, you know, big tree breaks or anything between me and the highway. And I rarely notice the highway noise, but when they're grinding, blasting, doing that kind of stuff, it's apparent that it's there. It's there. And I think that I can disagree. I disagree with the findings for that the quarry is fitting the comprehensive plan, because there's a section in the comprehensive plan on fitting the community, and you know, obviously with as many residences as you see in this very close general area, I don't, and this, you know, this one's a little bit out of the way here, but we're putting this right in the middle of all the houses here. I don't personally think that it fits the comprehensive plan on fitting the community. And on top of that, like I said, the other quarry is kind of more out of the way. There's nothing back there. And all these houses have since been put in afterwards.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you can you get to your conclusion?
I realize, but they were up here for 2 hours, so I'm trying to get through it, but I want to be able to speak how I feel. So I appreciate that. And then yeah, I'm like everybody else. I'm concerned, you know, that it's gonna last another, could be 70 years or so. You know, I mean, that's enough time for, to be there for my whole life. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I just hope you guys looked at the map well, and how many houses in the direct area, don't necessarily want it right there next to our home. So I appreciate the time and allowing me to come up and speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Topher Filgering. I'm the Executive Vice President of Youth Front. We own 600 acres there on the north side of 2400 Road. I also am the Vice Chair of the Miami Planning Commission. So I've sat in your shoes and know what you're facing. So I'm certainly willing to answer any questions. I think that my biggest thing that I bring up, I don't plan to speak either for or against, because I leased hams to the quarry that's on our property, and they have quite a few more years on their run and pay us well for what they're doing there to further our mission with our kids and doing camps. So I'm not really speaking for or against. Here's what I'm bringing up the same thing I did a couple of years ago, is that way back when they closed 2400 Road, when they expanded 69 Highway, this was an argument that we made even then, is that the truck traffic on Jingo Road is a lot. And we, for one, have several thousand kids that come down that road every single year in vans and buses. We bring down at least 2 buses every single day full of kids doing day camp coming from the city. And so my biggest concern on all of this doesn't really have to do with this proposal, as it has to do with the fact that we have so much truck traffic going on 2400 Road. And you mentioned, I didn't quite catch the condition when you said they have to use 2400 Road. Can they turn right and or left, or is it just you don't want any other entrances other than 2400 Road? So that was a question I have. But then probably my biggest concern is just the impetus to make sure that that road is maintained for the safety of the people going in and out of the park, the people going in and out of Lynn Valley, and the people going in and out of Youth Front camps. Is there's a plan to maintain that, because that'll be on the county, I'm assuming, and maybe a little bit on Lynn Valley to make sure that those are maintained. So that's my biggest concern I want to bring up. I brought it up a couple of years ago. I brought it up when they closed our exit off at 2400 Road, when they expanded the highway. I'm bringing it up again just to make sure that it's cleared in front of us all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Kevin Young, and I'm actually been asked to speak on behalf of a property owner, Kathleen Ladley, and her daughter back there that own the property, that is currently right next to the existing quarry. We have talked about this many, many times. Having had that property for close to 40 years, I believe, somewhere around there. It's been developed. People are down there, they're living there. Most people don't even know it exists because it's on a part of a closed road. So you actually have to go past the quarry entrance to get to that property. The bottom line is that in all the years that we've been down there, working on the property, doing whatever we had to do, we have never had any issues at all with the current operating quarry in existence. They've always been good stewards as far as we were concerned. They took care of us if we had any concerns whatsoever. We never had a single problem out of them in the entire time that that property has been there. I know about the blasting. I will tell you that over the last 20 years, I cannot remember the last time I visited the house down there and there was blasting going on. I just don't recall it. It has always been very peaceful. It's been very quiet. I will tell you that occasionally there are trucks that go up and down that road, but it is absolutely nothing that we have found to be offensive to us in any way, shape, or form. And it's up to you to make that decision. But as one of the people who, to my knowledge, they were never consulted when this petition went around. 40 years of ownership, they were never consulted.
Does anybody live there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Walker, we're not, I know. What I'm saying is, when they're speaking, we're trying to keep the gallery from speaking, so we don't have a whole lot of back and forth.
Are you a year-round resident?
No, I am not.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a year-round caretaker.
And you're just speaking on behalf.
They asked me to speak on their behalf.
They're not year-round residents.
What's that?
They aren't year-round residents.
No. It is part-time residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Mhm.
If you would like to speak, please stand up.
I'm going to take just a little bit different angle here. My name is Gary Mahon. We live on Olery Road, and our house is going to be pretty much straight west of where Jake has planned to build his rock quarry, and probably about 3/4 of a mile. The land that he's on was land that my wife grew up on and lived on for several years. As a matter of fact, she was right across the road from the existing rock quarry for several years. I grew up in the western side of Linn County over in Centerville, and after Susie and I were married, we lived a half mile from a rock quarry to the north. So we have a little bit of experience with this somewhat closeness, but not real close to rock quarries. I am not a big rock user. I have a little driveway that reaches maybe from here to across the road. We're in the process of putting some rock on that now, or at least trying to. And once we do, it's going to be good for 3, 4, 5 years. My son-in-law, my daughter have built a new home, and they've had recently to purchase a lot of rock and associated materials to go with establishing a new driveway, which is somewhat lengthy. I'm going to bring up an area that hasn't been brought up yet, and it's about the economics and competition in this county. In getting our rock, getting their driveway, the guys that haul the rock, go after it, spread the rock, they couldn't just go right around the corner. I guess they could go right around the corner about a mile and pick it up and bring it back, but it'd been much, much more expensive than those guys driving all the way down here to Mound City, another 20, 25 miles one way, and hauling it back because they could get it cheaper. I'm bringing up the competition factor here that maybe you guys might want to think about. You have no control, and I understand it, nor should you have any control, and I hope you never do have control over what businesses in Linn County charge their customers for goods and services. But this is what's happening to us up there. We're little guys like me, we have to go a long ways to get what we want. You have no control over that, but I tell you something that you guys do have some control over, and I hope you will think about it and perhaps exercise it. You do have some control on whether or not you can let competition come into this county. And I think what you need to be thinking about is what is the overall good? What's the best good for people in this county? And this is something I think should be a serious consideration. Because I kind of think an overall good for Linn County is competition. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we're gonna close public comment. Anyone have any questions, concerns, thoughts?
Explain your provision on the traffic. Again, I didn't quite follow it.
I would like to have a truck road where I'm trying to think of the right wording, their preferred route of exit from the quarry is take 2400, and then that road that goes north and south from 2400 to your okay, and take that one, and you can either go north or south from there, but to move most of the traffic to the west of the quarry.
So you want them departing to the west out of the quarry?
Yeah.
Another thing we discussed last time this came up was actual road maintenance agreement with the county, that money tied to it. That was something that had to be arranged with Sean.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works, but that was something that came up.
Okay.
To try and address the maintenance issues.
Any thoughts?
Only thing I can think of is maybe getting a dust management process for that area right there on the roads, on the truck traffic, where possibly water trucks would occasionally go down the road if there was a lot of traffic, and to control the dust.
Okay, would anyone be opposed to having the applicant get with Public Works and create a road management plan? We can't like directly control that as far as I know, but we can have them handle that. I believe.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that you guys could, put as part of the conditions that there has to be road maintenance agreements.
Okay.
The direction of the Public Works Director. With the agreement of the Public Works Director. So we can do that. Then you guys have also said that you wanted them to comply with the regulations. Did that include providing you the documentation for that?
Yeah, I was gonna add on that. As the applicant collects the different required documentations, that they send a copy of that over to our zoning director for us to keep on file. You have a question? Can you stand?
So that way when I do the minutes, I can.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
up.
why.
I was just going to bring up that you touching on the road part, that I'd say about a quarter of the truck traffic that comes in and out of the existing quarry, they use Valley coming from the south to the north and then turn right there on a 2400 to go to the other quarry right in front of my house. And I personally think since that Valley is chip and seal, it gets pretty beat up from the truck traffic, especially on that chip and seal right there on Valley. So I think that you're on something for sure on doing truck traffic, not on Valley.
Yeah, because as far as I remember, most of 24 is or 2400 is paved.
Right.
From there.
Right.
That's what.
Yeah, but then Valley's chip and seal.
Mhm.
So it doesn't handle it very good. So I just wanted to say that for us.
Thank you. Okay. Trying to think of all the different conditions I put out. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the quarry application as written with the existing staff recommendations, that they comply with state and federal regulations, that the permit, is kept on file with any permits that you acquire throughout your, process, be kept on file with the zoning office. Your hours of operations is 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the heavy equipment hours of operations, that was previously mentioned, doesn't include maintenance of equipment, unloading equipment, and so forth. There's no storage of explosives on property. And the ingress and egress be on the 24 as mentioned, and that the conditional use permit be renewed for the first time in 5 years. And let's see, there's the applicant will speak with our public works director to create a road plan, a road management plan, and let's see, add in the pre-blast survey for residents within 1,000 feet at the cost of the applicant or the company. I'm missing something.
The trees on the berm.
Yes, the trees, to maintain some sort of evergreen tree on the west side of the berm to more properly block the view from the highway. It's been a long day. Let's see.
Yeah, just have, that's it.
Okay, that's my motion. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. And then give me the signing thing. Thank you, Mr. Wade, for coming. Let's see. And we have a couple more things on the agenda, but it's regulations wise, so we're done with the Wade quarry that is passed. If you want all to have conversations, please go outside while we finish up our meeting. And if you want to stay, you're free to stay and listen. Can I borrow your pen?
Yeah. Use this. I got another one.
That is kind of intense. It's usually more like velocity.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to talk to you about your youth thing. Yep.
I went to his camp.
Oh, yeah?
It's nice.
It's it. Yeah. Oh, I'll talk.
As I sign.
I'm gonna kick these people out.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can we take that outside, please? We're trying to get out of here at some sort of decent hour. Thank you.
Okay, one moment. Just one moment while we find
We're doing the tower or the membership?
whichever one. I don't really care.
Okay, let's.
Signed. I think I
We're
got.
probably gonna do the tower because that's probably what other people are here for. Okay, thank you.
And then the other one, the lots.
That one. Yep.
What? Food. The chip bags, and the crunching.
You take this.
Yep, I'll take it to them on Monday. The office good stuff that we've learned.
Can you talk to Jared about that? I think that he's right over there. There's a different timeline that I'm not familiar with, that you have to wait
Oh, that's it.
14 days.
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
just in case.
I'll look it up, but
Okay.
yeah.
It's right there.
They told me. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm not trying to buy one. That's all. Otherwise, yeah. Yeah, some sort of mentorship would have been great. Yes, I will have something after that in the future. Yes, and I will have something before. Yeah.
So we can review it.
Yeah.
Because we always got the staff report, you know, send it prior to on your findings.
It's a 14-day protest period.
14, that's what I thought. That was 2 weeks. Yep.
Okay, so this is 16-4. And
That's the amended.
This is, yeah, well, it's the addition. It's the addition
Put in.
for the communication tower, yes.
And we changed the end to be 110 feet for a safety.
Yep.
Yes.
Other than that, exactly. It's in 16 because the only place where towers were listed as conditional use available, possible to use was kind of cross-reference to Article 16 for elaboration. So basically, we changed the reference to communication towers to this clarification.
Okay.
And basically, that's what it used to say in the old regs. Only said 75 feet, and now it says 100.
And the surrounding counties are similar to this.
Okay.
Match this 100 feet regulation.
Okay, so the change that we're making is, let's see, this is an addition, because it's not in there.
Yes, it's an addition.
Yeah, so it's.
We're, yes.
You just tell them to leave. Yeah, it's after 9 o'clock. They need to go to bed.
It's the lawyer.
Yeah, it's after 9 o'clock.
So we're adding in 16-411, which reads radio, cellular, television broadcasting towers and or stations, microwave transmitting and or receiving towers and or stations or any tower or similar structure 100 feet in height or more, whether publicly or privately owned, provided the location provided the location of every tower must be such that it is at least 110% of the height away from all property lines. That is their adjustment. Anyone have any thoughts, concerns? Nope, we're good. Any public comment?
I want to start off by saying that the lady that was.
Can you say your name and
Oh,
where you live?
sorry. My name is Sky Ferris and I live in Tanglewood or Lacing. The lady sitting next to me, Marge Waker, and I have discussed our opposition to this tower before. And unfortunately, she had to leave.
Sorry, this is also the change in regulations for the entire county, not the People's Tower.
Okay.
Specifically.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It does affect it. You can still speak
Okay.
on it. I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify that for you.
Okay, so I can speak on the tower from my opposition right now, or do you want me to wait?
We're not talking directly on that tower, but
Okay,
any
I'm
thoughts or
sorry.
concerns about tower regulations in general you can
Okay.
speak on?
No, not right now, just the people.
Okay.
Unless it involves that.
So you can speak on us not passing this, basically. If that's what so we're raising it to 100 feet. You don't.
Okay.
If you're against it, you can speak on that. It's sort of what we're saying, I guess.
Okay, no.
That makes sense.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
You're all right. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thoughts, concerns?
So, I mean, just to be clear, what this means is on agricultural zone land, any tower greater than 100 feet or more will require a conditional use permit. 99.9 feet or less will not require a conditional use permit, which was the vagueness from the very beginning that spawned all this. So all this ridiculously long sentence is saying is 99.9 or less does not require conditional use on ag zone land. They are not allowed on non-land other than in, what did we figure out, industrial, heavy industrial. The other commercial, industrial, heavy industrial zones allow for commercial towers. It's a conditional use only. This only affects.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that that's clear.
I thought we discussed adding in the like.
During the discussion of workshop, we decided that it was impractical to put a tower within a lake community if we were going to acquire
The 110%.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
So
I
we
wanted
just
to clear that up.
kind of threw that out, simplified things.
Okay. Let's see. We usually don't do the discussion bit and the voting bit, so do we just go into the voting?
So I've got a procedure.
Yes.
If we do pass this, then do we have a hearing on it?
I was under the impression this is the hearing.
Yes.
It has to be a public, we usually,
Can we do that with the regulation?
There is. She disappeared on us.
She's stuck and she's in there with Wade.
So,
I get it?
she'll hear. Procedurally, because we need you to, because it's an amendment, I'm not sure that the process for amending has to have yet another public hearing after this. I don't know. Typically, we had that conversation, you and I.
Yeah, right.
Typically, we would have this change, vote for the change. There's a 20-day public notice period. We have another public hearing when we ratified all new regulations. But in the back of my mind, this was an amendment, and I'm not sure that that full 20-day process is required in this question.
so it's 2 days tops.
Okay.
Did you put the notice when you did the amendments before, is today the day that you're ratifying them? Y'all had a meeting to amend the regulations, right?
No, this is the first time we had a
First time, yeah. That was just a workshop.
regarding this.
You did. Ben, didn't you put something in the paper? Today's date?
Yes.
Didn't we? Yes, I think Jesse did.
And
Yeah.
how many days is that?
The days for the cup, how many days is,
It was,
it's been 20 days.
it's been a while. I don't know how many days it did run though. Is that what you're asking? How many days it ran in the paper or how many days ago?
Oh, how much notice and how many days, because that's what the bylaws require.
Jesse put it in when, because I was gone for that one. So Jesse put
What do you want to say?
it.
I'm Jennifer with People's Telecommunications and People's Services. What was listed in the paper was listed more than 20 days ago, stating that we had applied for the CUP and that there was going to be a hearing concerning that only if the regulations weren't amended and corrected.
Okay, so the notice didn't go out that we were correcting the regulations.
No, the ad paper specifically said we were addressing Article 16.
Right.
And I had a conversation with Jesse and Ben that was premature because we had not actually voted on the change for the amendment. And my understanding, the last time we've done the complete rework of the regulations is what there's a notice for a normal meeting, which is 21 days. We make a change to the regulation. There's another waiting period for public notice, and then there's a public hearing to discuss in public the change in regulation. There were 21-day periods involved. My question was, because this is an amendment, I believe that the process can be abbreviated. I don't know if that's true. I may have just heard that somewhere.
Yeah, this seems a little bit more technical than what I'm prepared to comment on off the hit. So I will just say that generally my understanding is that if you're going to vote to change the regulations, that day that you're going to vote is the day for the public comments for or against the proposed, that the changes to the regulations were otherwise available to the public to offer their feedback on whether they agree or disagree with the proposed changes to the regulations. And if that was in the paper for the specified amount of days, for the specified amount of lead time, that should be sufficient.
I'm prepared to take the slap on the wrist. Darren, can you come up and
Darren Wilson. So on a zoning amendment change, you have to post 20 days notice in the official county newspaper. It was posted 28 days before that. For an amendment, you can vote right now because you've already had a workshop on it. Then you do not have to wait the 14 days to take it to the commissioners. Mr. Souza can take it to the commissioners next Monday because it's an amendment. It's not a conditional use permit. It's not a variance. And I know I don't have the regulations in front of me, or I'd read the specific article for you. But that is state statute that on an amendment, it's 20 days, then public hearing, which you're having the public hearing right now. Then you don't have to wait the 14 days like you would on a conditional use permit. It can be taken because it's just a wording amendment.
okay. Thank you. That's the way I thought it was, but
Yeah, it was, I have it on record that it was on the 2nd of June is when we sent it to the paper.
okay.
So it should have been in.
It was published June 11th, just found it.
Okay.
And that's at least 20 days. I mean, that's what I was trying to say. I mean, maybe.
Oh, yep, I see it now. Yeah. No. He put it in, but yeah, it was June 11th.
Okay, so
We're good to.
we're good to go.
Yep.
I move that we accept this as written.
Okay. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Change in the amendment, or amending the right. Thank you. Find.
And then the next one is the Article 2 membership for the bylaws.
Yeah.
You read it? You read it? Sorry.
Do you have the
I have it. Yeah, I just have it right
copy
here.
of that? You wanna?
The Article 2 membership, it's the request to change the bylaws or just an adjustment to the bylaws, the zoning, planning and zoning bylaws. Article 2 membership, the change will be the number of members shall be 9, with each county commission district having 3 members. Terms of office will be 3 years for a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. Any member with unexcused absence from more than 50% of a regular meeting in a calendar year may be recommended to the Board of County Commissioners for replacement at the direction of the chair. Virtual attendance is allowed as per county policy.
Okay, that's our only changes.
We should, can we add to this?
We made all those changes that we discussed it a year ago. And you weren't here, and I also reworded the last paragraph rather significantly.
Okay.
It's just throw Ben under the bus on what he's supposed to deliver, to have everything to it, the staff report, all documentation. There, 3 days before. I told you last week.
He did.
It was just clarification, so that he knew what he needed to have 3 days before, emailed or on the SharePoint.
And do you have a copy of that so we can send that so it can be deemed official?
He has a copy.
Of the updated.
I emailed.
Yes. I could have sworn I pulled right from that email you sent out, but maybe I was wrong. I must have been wrong.
Well, we tweaked almost the whole thing.
Yes, we did.
As far as
Yeah, it was in the planning commission bylaws, membership. Was it Article 3, the officers?
the other change I made was the very last paragraph before.
Oh, the duties
before the
of
subdivision.
officers. Sorry, no, keep going. Agenda subjects, recommendations, voting, meeting. I think we need to add that presentations can only be 30 minutes long. Duties of officers, officers, members. Yep.
This is what I said. All accompanying documents, new business and staff report made available to the planning commission. It's file server by email. Yeah, that's it. I completely rewrote that.
Okay. Do you want me to read that out or?
Sure.
Okay. Additional amendment to the board bylaws is that the agenda and any accompanying documents for new business, including any staff reports, shall be made available to the public, to the planning commission's area of the county file server or by email at least 3 days prior to the meeting for the planning commission to review. In addition,
Those days or 3 days? Meetings are on Tuesday, so
yes,
basically, means he has to get it out Friday, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Working days,
Working days.
3 days.
3 working days.
3 working days.
Okay, yep, I see it. Yeah, sounds great. So, they took away my shared drives. Okay, I'll figure it out. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. 3 working days. Let's see. Sorry, my brain's a little fried from everything today.
3 working days. Okay.
What else did we change? I'm trying to.
We cleaned up a lot of wording. We cleaned up quorum is in there.
Do we need to mention that, or can that just be part of public record? And
I think we could just say miscellaneous clarifications. And we didn't fundamentally change anything except what he already said, so.
can I get a motion to approve the mentioned changes for both Ben and Paul and the miscellaneous fixes?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
I'm gonna write something else up for that one. Does it need to be right now? Or can I get this to you?
Let's see, I'm going to be in town next Monday.
Okay, I'll have it tomorrow, but
I think it
whenever.
has to be at least an actual signature.
That's what it's been in the past. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't have like any fancy stuff to like on my personal computer to sign stuff electronically. I'll be in town Monday.
Okay,
so
that works.
Sign that.
That works.
Everyone cool with that?
That's good.
Me signing the paper Monday? Okay, I think we can adjourn.
Amen.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.